So I want to talk about body shaming with men and also the racial element that comes into play. So I am 165 centimeters in height. Um, that's about 5'5" in imperial measurements, American crappy measurements. And I'm usually one of the shorter or shortest guys in any given situation. So all my life I've been made fun of for my height, or in dating I've experienced things and I've been bullied. I've noticed that many bullies, aggressive men will target either very short men or very tall men, because it's like they see short men as easy to push around and they see tall men as like a threat to their masculinity and they need to prove themselves. So height in height in men is like a big barrier right now, and people think it's totally okay to body shame people for height. And it's like, man, we were born like this. Like, it's not something we can change, and there's no easy cosmetic surgeries out there to change your height. There's like one thing where you break your leg bones and you have to break them and keep them broken for like a few years to grow like an inch, a few centimeters. And it's like, hey, okay, if you don't want to date a short person, that's your prerogative, right? It's like if you don't want to date a fat person or whatever, right? It's your shit. Like, but to go out and act like someone's height affects their inherent value or worth, it's insanity. And also, I think it's pretty stupid if you're dating and you discriminate against people based on height. I do think that's stupid, because it's like you know nothing about the person. It doesn't even have to do with their physical fitness. Like, people see me because of my height and they think I'm automatically weak, but I know for a fact I'm much stronger than a lot of my taller friends, because I'm pretty fit. I've been working out most of my life. I'm not like some crazy athlete or something, but I take care of myself fitness wise. So there's that aspect. There's also like penis size, right? It's so common. Like, oh man, I feel so bad for people who have small penises. Like, they get shit on so much. And look, being an Asian guy, the racist element to body shaming when it comes to penis size, like, we attach men's sexual worth, or we attach men's inherent worth to their sexual ability. And this has to do with height as well, has to do with their ability to be violent. So like, height is associated with strength, and if you're taller or bigger, you're seen as stronger, so you're worth more as a man because we value violence and aggressiveness. This all has to do with toxic masculinity. And then penis size too, it's like, are you an aggressive strong man who can fuck? And it's like, that has nothing to do with your worth as a person. Are you a good person? Are you a loving partner? And things like penis size, right? So, a little personal here, but I'm around 16 inches, or sorry, not inches, 6 inches in length. 16 inches would be, bro, or maybe a little over. I'm not even sure. When I was a teenager, I measured it, but I don't know. I don't even know like how big it is. Like, I've been told that it's pretty big by my sexual partners. But in because I'm pansexual and I've slept around, like, usually when I've slept with people who have penises, like, mine is slightly bigger than theirs, with one exception. There was a trans person I had sex with, and theirs was enormous. But I think I've only seen in person two penises in my life that were bigger than mine. But I digress. That aside, right? Like, when it comes to sexual ability, like, sex is something I learned with each partner it's a form of communication. Like what you do with one person doesn't necessarily transfer over in how good it feels for another person. Like this has to do with communication. Like having a big penis doesn't mean it's going to be good sexually. It means nothing about your worth as a person. And look, if you're a man and you have a micro penis, let's say like I met a guy who was married, he had a kid, and he told me like he wasn't ashamed of it. And I really admire that he was so open and unashamed. He said it looked like a light switch. It was the size of a light switch, like a micro penis. And it has nothing to do with your worth as a person. Like when I think back on him, I remember him as a cool guy, a nice guy. And as far as I know, his wife was in love with him and they were in a loving relationship. And I remember like yeah, everyone has different experiences, but I've read like a woman talking about how one of her best sexual partners was a man with a micro penis because he listened to her and they communicated and did things that she liked. And look, don't be ashamed of using sex toys, right? So like there's um what do you call it, wearable sleeves, like a wearable dildo you can put on your cock and use that if size matters during sex, like that's something you can use. And I think if you have a partner who really is invested in you and sees beyond superficial things like that, they will want to work with you over things like that. And like in my case, I've had to look into bumpers to kind of reduce the length because length can be painful for certain partners. So that's if and I've heard women say like I had an ex who one guy she had sex with. He was so big that he put it in and she had to stop because it was so painful. So like and he was still nice to her and like they did other things and blah blah blah. Like if you're too big, too small, it doesn't matter. Like you can there's toys and ways to work around. There's other things you can do to still derive pleasure. Like it's very rarely a deal breaker. And that goes for height too. Like we make body shaming so acceptable towards men and it's wrong. It needs to stop. Like there's people who are like our short kings blah blah blah. And I am biased because I am short, but when I see that I'm like yeah, like why didn't I have that growing up? Like I wish I did. I wish I had people telling me like hey, it's okay that you're short, because it is. And I also want to talk about the racial element to it too. Like Asians have small penises. I've talked about this in one of my shorts. Like it's literally a way to degrade an entire race, and it's so untrue. Like yes, of course there are Asian men with small penises, just like there are white or black men with small penises, and Asian men with big penises, just like there are white and black men with big penises. And these racial stereotypes were spread because of racism, because there was a social sentiment of hostility against Asian people and even black people. We're like, oh yeah, I wish I was seen as black so I could be seen as having a big penis. People don't understand where that stereotype came from. It came from fear mongering towards black people that black men were gonna come steal the white women and rape them. If you look, if you actually go and look at racist caricatures back in the day, they made black men seem like these ooga booga tribal guys coming to rape white women, and raping white women was used as a pretext to lynch a lot of black men in order to spread fear in the black community. And just like that, the small penis stereotype came about when um, World War One and Two came, and especially after World War Two, the Vietnam War and all these campaigns in Asian countries. That stereotype was spread to degrade the Asian race as well as fetishize Asian women. So it's like a very like Viking mentality, like, oh, we're gonna go steal the women, kill the men. And that's what we see everywhere. Like if you look at like Pornhub or whatever and you see like an Asian American porn actress, who's she gonna be fucking on camera? Are there any Asian American porn stars she's fucking? No, they're usually white or black guys. So it's all this weird body shaming stuff. It all comes from white patriarchal toxic masculinity to promote hyper aggressiveness, to promote the idea that men are only worth their race, their ability to be violent and domineering, and their ability to be hyper aggressively sexual. So just think about everything I said. If you're a short guy, if you're an Asian guy, if you have a small penis, or even if you don't, and let's say you have a big penis and you're tall and you're white or black or brown or whatever watching this, just realize like, or if you're a woman watching this, just realize like it's not right to judge people based on their body. And I've said this with fat people too. Like people are like, but you can change being fat. Like, not for everyone, based on their circumstances. And even if they're just fat because they want to eat and be fat, like, okay, no one's forcing you to be like their gym coach or to fuck them. And the same goes for short, Asian, small penis, whatever. Like, no one's forcing you to fuck a short person, an Asian person, a person with a small penis. Just leave people alone. Let them be. Don't spread negative rhetoric about someone. Just don't judge people. Everyone's different. Like, let's say there's a person who's short, small penis, whatever. Like, they can be a good person, they could be a bad person. They could have good sexual abilities and communication skills, or bad sexual abilities and communication skills. Just like with all my other videos, it always comes down to like everyone is different. Even within a certain category, there is so much diversity. And throwing blankets of categorization over people is just such a myopic and closed-minded, narrow-minded way to view things. So think about these things. Try not to judge people. And especially don't harass people. Don't fucking insult people. Just let people be. Like, if you don't want to be with someone who has a small penis, then don't. If you don't want to be with a short person, then don't. But don't spread hate. Don't body shame.